all right, hold up. Let me just okay this. Got it. It is to separate. I know, right? He just did it on time just for me to explain it so you can record it. So basically, a subnet mask. You just want me to explain the subnet mask, not
Yes,
what
that's
it.
all we want. Like we're starting on this discussion. We're just gonna lay down some basic foundational concepts, make sure everybody's on the same page. So what is the subnet mask? What is its purpose? Why do we use it?
Yeah. So it's just basically it separates the classes. So you'll know like there's three classes that are being used: Class A, Class B, and Class C.
Okay.
And so a subnet mask basically is it's just letting you know which network it or which uh, separation in the group it belongs to. So it's like a
Okay.
subdivision. It's like a subdivision of the
Okay.
actual IP address, or I should say, not the IP address, but it's the subdivision of that network.
Okay. Well, we're cleaning it up just a little bit more. We're moving closer to those answers. So thank you, Cynthia. Hunter.
It separates the network ID from the host ID. So like in a class A, Cynthia said the first 8 bits would be the network ID and the last 24 would be the host ID, I believe. And class
Okay.
C is kind of swapped, and then class B is 16 each piece.
There we go. So now we're saying like the subnet mask's sole purpose is in the IP address, which is basically the address for that computer. The purpose of the subnet mask is to break up the portion of that IP that is dedicated to the network address and the portion of that address which is dedicated to the host or the computer in that network. So that is essentially what it is, right? If I wrote that out in binary, how would I know where the breaking point is in binary? DW, you got that?
How would I know? Is it by the notation at the end? So you write out the IP address in its full binary code, and then /8/24.
Okay. Well, that is a cider notation at the end, which is great. So we like that. But what does that /8 mean? What does that /16 mean?
Oh, it means what it tells you how to break down that IP address. So /8 would be subnet type A, I guess, and then 24 is type B.
/24 is type B. So, but what I mean, those numbers, why not they just say /1, /2, /3 for like a class A, B, or C? Why do they use /8, /24, and /16?
It'll come to me. So I'm gonna pass it along.
All right, let's go with Lorraine. And we'll come back to Cynthia. You are muted, ma'am.
Good morning. Kelly, I thought you were asking how we differentiate the host from the network in the notation.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I said is like, you know, first I was like, what does a subnet mask do? So we can clarify what that is real quick. Mm-hmm. That tells the computer what portion of the IP goes to the network, what portion goes to the host. Right. Because we're cutting that IP essentially into 2 pieces. One is the network address, one is the host address, but we use that whole number to get to that individual computer. And then I was saying, how would that be represented in binary? So if I wrote out the IP in binary, how would it look?
In binary, it's all 0s and 1s, and it would be eight numerals, 8 numbers, 8 bits.
Yeah. So that's when we say /8. So if we have an IP, boom. So if I have a subnet mask, and my subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. So if I have an IP address that basically looks like that, how would that look in binary? Because that's not an IP address, excuse me, that's my subnet mask. How would that look in binary?
Well, under each octet would be 0s and 1s that represent 255. So it would be what is it actually? 0 0 0 0 um, 011?
Well, 255 would be all 8 bits turned on, right?
Right.
So if I wanted to represent this subnet mask in binary,
all 8
There would be,
ones,
there we go.
all 8 ones twice,
Yes,
and then all zeros twice.
Venkata, thank you very much. That is exactly what I was looking for. So when we type out the subnet mask so that the computer can see it, the representation of this would be this is what the computer would see, minus the actual dots I used to break it up, right? So when you're looking at the subnet mask, all of the ones, so it's a series of ones followed by a series of zeros. So the series of ones tells the computer that the portion that is the series of ones, that is your network. The series that is the portion of zeros is your host. So if I did a class A, it would be 8 zeros and then 20 or 8 ones and then 24 zeros, right? We can also notate it as we talked about with the /16 after the normal IP address, because that tells us that the first 16 bits represent the network, right? So that's where that /16 comes from. It's letting us know that the first 16 bits are the network portion of the address. And then if I said /24, it would be the first 24 bits, right? Does that, I mean, is everybody where we're at right now? Does that make sense to everyone? So if I cleared this out, Hunter, do you still have a question? So for the purposes of this exercise, did you have a question, Lorraine, or are you still good? For the purposes of this particular exercise and to keep things simple, we are strictly going to focus on Class C addresses. We're not going to get into B's or A's because the math gets uglier when you start getting into B's or A's. So we're focusing strictly on C to get that foundational concept in our minds of what it is we're doing. So we're looking at this. Let me do another one here. So this will be so. All right. So this would be the binary representation of a class C, the last 8 bits being zeros, that's our host. So we are going to pretend that we are a network administrator at a small company, and we have been given a class C address, class C network. How many hosts can we have if we have a class C and we only have this last chunk to work with? What's the maximum number of hosts we can have? Let me turn on chat because I appear. Go ahead. 255. So if I, with everything off or with everything on, we have a maximum total of 255 potential hosts. However, with every network, you need to have a broadcast address, which is a way to communicate with everybody on that network. So that eats up 1. And then we have the host address, which is essentially the host of the network. So for every network that you create, you always subtract 2, just for the purposes of this. Okay. So all Cider notations, you know, if we had a class C, would be, we would either represent it as 255.255.255.0 or 24 ones followed by 8 zeros, or real quick shorthand. If we had an IP 192. We might write it like this. So we have 192.168.10.5/24. That tells us that is a class C address, right? Now over the open internet, we can only use what is called class full routing, which is A, B, C, D, E. That's it. Internally in our networks, we have the ability to break things down into smaller chunks. And this is where Cider subnetting comes in. So though I have the possibility of having 255 or 56 technically hosts, but 254 would be what I would normally actually be able to use. I don't want them all necessarily sitting on the same network. I may want to break them up into smaller pieces. So Cider subnetting allows me to take this last octet, which is what we're going to be working on, is only this last octet, and say, for my network, I'm going to add one more bit to my network address. So I'm going to turn on this next bit right here. Okay. So I'm going to turn, I can have this one bit extra be my network. So now essentially my internal networks, I have network 0, which is the bit off, and network 1, correct? This now leaves me the 7 bits remaining to be my host address. So I can do turn on or off any of these switches in any order up until I click the 1, and that would be network 0. Once I click the 1, it would be all of these on until everything is on, would be my network 1. So I've now broken this network up into 2 groups, and I would actually create a range. So my first range would be 0 to 127, because that last bit represents 128, right? So when I turn that on, I'm now in the second batch of networks. So then it would be 128 to 255. So now I've created 2 networks using that one extra bit, and I've created, and now because of that, there is now a range. My Cider notation, instead of being a /24, would be now a /25, because I'm using that 25th bit as my network identifier, right? Are we all on the same page? So on this IP address that I put up here, this 192.168.10 would be what my provider gives me. The .5 would have been that host address in there, and that .5 for that last one would fall into my first network, right? Because it falls in this range of 0 to 127, this .5 on this IP. So it would go right into, we know it goes into this network based off of routing. If it was .193, so if it was 192.168.10.193, we know it would go into this one because it falls within that range. Yes, Cynthia.
If I can help my students or my cohorts, So we're in class C. So just remember that the network ID in class C is 192.168.10. So when you look at 2.55.2.55.2.55, all those are ones. That means that is all lit, and that's class C. That's like automatic. That's just the way it is. So after that dot is considered a host ID. So what Kelly is explaining is that because it's a 5, it lands in between the 0 through 127.
Which means it's in this group here. But if that last octet of the IP address, because that's the only portion that is host, everything else is network, so the network doesn't change. It's just that last portion, which is host. If that becomes 193, this now falls into this 128 to 255 range. So it comes into the second group of IP addresses. So basically all we're doing is we're using the binary to break up our network into smaller and smaller chunks so that we can do more with those computers or with those networks. Are we okay so far? Did she ask for that, Mark, or did you request it?
She said that she was kind of had that in her back pocket just in case, but she wasn't
Okay.
sure what today was going to look like, so she was fine with it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Mark. Mark just gave everybody a Christmas present. We've rescheduled the interview workshop for this afternoon till after break. So we're still priming to go home early. Thank you, Mark. He's nicer than I am. All right. So now let's muddy the water just a little bit more. So we know this is a /27, right? So now let's create a /26. So let's create a /26, which means instead of just one bit being part of it, we're going to add another bit to be part of our network, right? So we're now using 26 bits, but remember, we're only really focusing on this last octet. So we're using a second bit from the last octet to equal our network. So we only have 5 or 6 bits left over to represent our host. Yes, Lorraine, I'm gonna get questions and then we'll go on. Okay, so hand down, Lorraine, Hunt, or Darwin.
I guess you're getting to it right now. I was going to ask if then the next notation will be /26, /27, and then
Yes.
with each notation, you're basically going down an exponential value, right? So
Yes.
I'm guessing
Yes.
for /26 it would be 2 to the 6th power, and then for /27 it will be 2 to the 5th power with each bit that you turn on, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Your light bulb's coming on. Julian.
So I get what you're doing and all the math and everything that you're doing. I just don't understand the purpose of it. Like, why are you adding ones on the bits?
Well, the ones. Why am I adding the ones on the cider on the subnet over here?
Yeah.
Because remember, the subnet represented in binary is a series of ones followed by a series of zeros.
Mm-hmm.
So where the zeros begin tells the computer that's where the host ID begins.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes into our network, we have the ability to break things down into smaller chunks because we may want our printers on their own network. We may want our servers on their own network. We may want operations on their own network, and we may want research and development on their own. That way we can isolate them from each other as needed, because we don't necessarily want our frontline operations people knowing, what research projects we're doing right now,
mm-hmm.
or having access to that research or that kind of stuff. So we're able to break up these little chunks into smaller networks by doing this.
And we could do that as we please.
So long as you work within the parameters, yes. So like, yes, as you want, you can break it down as you see fit.
Okay.
And it, but we're going to get a little bit more into this, as we're talking about it. So
Okay.
Does that kind of answer your question, Julian?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Susan.
So I guess part of my question was Julian's. So we're taking away bits from the host to make it our own private.
Yes.
address?
So when it comes into like if I'm given 255 computers, I may not need to use all of those in operations or something like that. I may only need like 125 for operations. So I would use one chunk of it for that. And then I would break the other chunks up into smaller bits that I need. So, and this doesn't mean I lose those bits. It just means that those portions of the binary will be dedicated to the network ID.
Okay.
Basically telling the computer as it's routing traffic that this portion goes to the network.
Okay.
It's not a light concept. I'm not gonna sit there and lie to you and say it's a light concept. This is a heavier concept.
Yep.
So, but we're gonna do some practice examples. We're gonna work our way through it. Jerusalem.
Yeah, I don't know how you got the 193. Could you explain that again, please?
Oh, that was just a random number I picked to show a number that would go in the second group of IP ranges. That's
where
all.
It lies.
Yeah.
Under it? Got it. I couldn't.
So if, like if I got this address, it'd be like 192. Yeah, it would just really help if I could write the way I speak. That would just be awesome. So 192.168.10. All right. So this is the network ID given to us by our internet service provider, right? So within this, I can have .0 to 255 in my last portion of the address. I control on any computer in my network. I can give them .0 to 255 because the internet service provider gave us this network address. And so we control this internal portion. Does that make sense? And that's where I said, so if I had a 10, hold on. If I had a 10, that would go in this first group right here. If I erase that 10, and instead the computer that I was trying to talk to was 153, just pulling a random number out. If I had 153, that would go into the second range. So all I was showing is this is the range we're working with based on this last number and the fact that we were doing a /25, it would give us these two ranges and the number would tell us which one of these ranges we would be in.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully that cleared things up a little bit. I know I can muddy the water a lot. I try not to. All right, Candido.
So each time you turn one of the zeros on, that creates a new network.
Well, it allows me to break up the network into smaller chunks. So the only example we've shown.
As far as like,
sorry, I didn't hear your question. Can you repeat that again, Candido?
oh, right. So you turn one of the zeros, well, two of the zeros into one. So that turned something on. So when you turned on the first zero, it gave you 0 through 127. And then when you turned on the second zero, that gave you 128 through 255. Is that correct?
No. Let me redo this again. I gotta erase that. All right.
Ellie?
Yo.
So I want to, if this can actually clean up a little bit more to help them see it. So like when you're between 0 and 255, right? 255 is the broadcast. Those are all lights that broadcast. So if you're in the host ID, which is your own personal network, right? You have 254 computers. It could be anything. It could be printers, computers, whatever. It could be whatever devices you need, right? 255 out of those devices, right? You're gonna have a broadcast. That means it's gonna shoot out whatever message you want to shoot out into your own personal network, right? So 0 is just 0, right? That's just, we know that's what it is. So so you're basically working with 254 computers. You can design it however which way you want to, just to keep it really like clear that anything outside of the network ID, your host ID will always be your personal network, if that could help you guys out. And then you set up your network and you can give it whatever number you want. You can give it a 1, 2, 3, your printer could be 10. So your whole network knows that out of 254 computers, dot 10 is your printer, right? So if that helps clear out the actual visual aspect of a host ID.
Well, okay, how about this? Say, okay, I'm the lead instructor in this classroom. Everybody here is, coming to work on my particular network in labs. Mark and Avery are running you guys into smaller groups. We divide the class into 2 equal classes. Now, since we like a little bit of friendly competition, we're gonna say we might potentially compete against each other. We don't want you guys seeing what the other team is doing. I'm gonna cut the class in half. I'm gonna create network 0 for Mark, and all the IP addresses we hand out to Mark's group are gonna range between 0 and 127. Avery is gonna be the 1 group. Every IP range I get, or every IP address I give to Avery's team, will end in either 128 to 255.
Okay.
So I've created 2 teams. Those teams aren't necessarily going to cross over, but based off of the number, which will be the last number in the IP, which is this number here. Now that in that last number, we only have 1 octet. So we have 8 bits, and based on turning them on and off, we can only have 0 to 255. So that is our range, 0 to 255. Now, if I give Rachel, if I give you the last octet of 115, whose group would you be in? Would you be in Mark's in the 0, or would you be in Avery's?
The 0 group.
You would be in the 0 group. Maftuna, if I gave you 130 as the last number in your IP, would you be in Mark's 0 group or Avery's 1 group?
1 group.
There we go. So this would be how we would break you up based off of your IP. So we have 192.168.10. This is our external network. This is what Comcast gave us. Anything after that, so that last group we control. We can say who can do what. So if I have a /24, that's the plain C that I have done nothing with. I only have 0 to 255, 1 group, that's it. Now, if I want to break it up to where Mark has his own group and Avery has his own group, we're going to split it up evenly. I would make this, instead of a /24, I would do a /25. And I'm turning on this bit in my subnet so that my network knows that this one bit here also is part of the network address. And the only thing we can do with the single bit is it can either be on or off, right? There's only two options. So on or off, which means we have two possible networks, 0 and 1. And if we look at our ANDing, if I go back to this real quick, if I look down here at our IP addresses, if I start turning things on, like first bit on, 1, you can see it adds up here. It gives me the 1, right? And then I go to the next one, turn that on, that should give me 3. Boom. Turn the next bit on, gives me 7. Next bit on, gives me 15. Next bit on, gives me 31. Next bit on is 63. And the next bit on gives me 127. So if I turned on every single bit of the last 7, I can get all the way up to 127, right? That's counting in binary. So if I only have 7 bits, I can go all the way up to 127. The moment I turn this last one on, I'm in my new network. So I turn that on because that's my network. That first bit is my network subnet, right? So I turn this on. Boom, I'm at 128. So I'm at 128 because I got this on and everything else is 0. And then I can go through and turn things on. And as I turn things on, it adds all the way up to 255. So that's where these ranges are coming from. It's the turning on of that bit or that bit being off. And then these last few bits are left over to be our computer address or a host in the network, right? Does that help, or did I make things worse? So, and if we only use the first bit, that is /25, because let me go back to our other sheet here so we can clearly see it. /24 only brought us to here. /25 gave us one more bit past the dot, right? One more bit into that octet. Yes, Susan.
So how many bits can you take away from the host to create
Smaller
an
networks?
address? Yes, yes.
The highest cider you can have is /30, which leaves just the last 2 bits for host addresses. But here's how things break down. So like is everybody at least relatively comfortable with /25? Okay. All right. Let's muddy the water a little bit. Let's go to /26. So we're going to do a /26, which means we're going to add an extra bit, this one right here, to our network, leaving us only 6 bits left over for our host. So we're now using, internally, we're using 2 bits to represent our network, which means we have the possibility of network 00, 01, 10, and 11. Because we have 2 bits, right? They can only be on or off. That is the number of combinations we can do, right? Okay. Now we can break down our ranges for IP addresses. So we'll call this Marvin, Kelly, Mark, and Avery. So we now have 4 networks. We brought Marvin into pinch hit for one lesson. We wanted to break everybody up into 4 equal groups. So now our range would be 0 to 63, 64 to 127, 128, 191 and 192. Do that every time. 192 to 255. So that now becomes our IP ranges in this network. So if I gave Julian, if I gave you an IP, like the last number of your IP address of a 83, whose team would you be on?
Kelly.
Very good. Karen, if I gave you an IP of 135, whose team would you be on?
Avery. 135. No, Mark. Yeah.
Here we go. If I gave you an IP of 15, Glean, whose team would you be on?
Who's the first initial again?
Marvin.
Marvin. So I'd be on his team.
Okay. So we're understanding now that when we've broken it up, when we get our IP address, that last number, if it is a /26, that last number is going to tell us whose team we're on, right? Yes, Leela.
I think I get a little confused. When you just put those numbers there, you were just making those numbers up, right? Like
No.
the different teams. So that is the correct range, the 0 to 63?
Those are the correct ranges.
Okay. I guess I just keep getting confused because I don't know if you're making up some or you're just doing the correct ranges.
No. Those are actually the correct ranges.
Okay.
And that is
Thank
why
you.
I write it out. I write it out in order. So like this is the binary representation. So I do 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So I would do it in order of how they would turn on.
Okay.
And then because I know when I look at my ANDing over here. Nope, wrong one. Here we go. So if I look at my ANDing, should I get it to where it's a little bit cleaner? So right here, if I wanted to do, oops, a little too overzealous. So if I wanted to do 15, which was the one I gave Glean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would do my binary counting for 15. Is 15 greater than 128? No, move on. It's a 0. Is 15 greater than 64? No, that's a 0. Move on. Is it greater than 32? No, that's a 0. Move on. Is it greater than 16? No. 0. Move on. Is 15 greater than 8? Yes. So I'd put a 1 here. I would go to my next one, and I have 7 left over. Is 15 greater than 4 or 7 greater than 4? Yes. Put a 1 here. 4 minus 7 is 3. Is 3 greater than 2? Yes. Give me the 1 there. 2 from 3 gives me 1. I move to the next one. 1 here. Does 1 equals 1? 0. So now my binary representation for 15 is 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. And up here, we can see it added up to 15, right?
Right.
So we remember doing that in Coursera, right?
Right, I do.
So now look over here. See the first 2 bits, which we said was part of our Cider subnet. What are they? So what are our 2 bits right here? Can you guys see my pointer or no?
They're off, aren't they?
Yeah, 0 and 0.
There's 0, 0, right?
Okay.
So it's 15. Our first 2 are off. So that's 0, 0, right? Look
Yes.
here. 0, 0. That's our network. And that 15 falls into that range. Now, if I turned in, so if I turn on every bit in those last 6, but left the 00 off, what do I have? 63, right? So I have everything I can possibly turn on. Gives me 63. If I turn everything off, it's 0. So that's where that range comes from. And then if I turned on just that first bit and then turned everything else off, we have 64, right? But we have that first bit off, so that we have 0, 1. That gives us our 64, which is the start of that range, right? And then I come back and I turn everything else on. Boom, 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 boom. We're up to 127. That's the high end of that range. So I can't do anything else now unless I turn the next bit on and then that bit off. Gives us our 128, which is the 1-0 network. So 1-0 gives us 128. And then I turn everything on. Boom, 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 boom. Gives us 191. That is the upper part of that range. So me labeling my networks like this is exactly, I'm trying to think of it in terms of binary counting so that I know exactly what my ranges are. Do we all remember the binary counting exercise from Coursera? Maybe want to redo that one more time. So excellent question, Leela. Did I answer your question?
Oh, yes, and more. Thank you.
So what we've now got, so the first one we had 2 networks, a /25 gave us 2 networks with technically 128, but we subtract our 2. So we have, 2 networks, 128 computers. We don't need to worry about the host and broadcast just yet. That's network plus. So 0 to 128. So 128, or excuse me, to 127. So you have 128 computers, 2 networks with each 128 possibilities in it. If I upped it to a /26, which is what we just did, we now have 4 networks, each with 64 possibilities in it. So 0 to 63, 64 to 127. So I've just broken it down into another chunk. I doubled my amount of networks and I cut in half the amount of computers I can have in each network. Right? So who wants to muddy the water just a little bit more? Do it one more time.
Wait, don't erase that screen, Kelly. Hold on. Before you go to the next one.
Yes, DW.
So the next notation will be /27, and then that would give us 8 possible networks, and then divide the total amount of, take the 256 divided by 8 minus 2, and that would give you the total number of computers. So.
I'm not sure about that last half. I gotta.
All right. Okay. Sorry. So /27 will give us 8 possible networks, right?
Yes, 8 possible networks.
But then the ranges for those networks you would get divided by half again. So
yes.
Network 0000 would be 0 through 31, and then
yes.
And then network 0001 will be 31 through 63. And then so far. All
right, I'm handing it over to DW. He's got it. Have a nice holiday. I'm out.
No, please don't. I just want to make sure I'm getting. It's like it's starting to come along.
Yeah, it's starting to make sense as to what it is they're doing.
Okay. And so, is it really practical to go all the way up to the last 2 bits? Like, are there networks that go that deep into the sub?
Well, if you have two servers, because like a /30 only, like, because remember where I said in the beginning, you have to have a broadcast, you have to have a host. So a /30 would only allow you the last 2 bits right here. So we have 4 total possibilities. 2 get taken away for host and broadcast, so it only allows you 2 computers. So if you have 2 primary servers that are really important, you might isolate them by themselves on a /30 network.
Oh, okay.
Or you have 2 industrial printers, you're never going to change their IPs, they're always going to be the same. You might isolate them on their own network and allow everybody access to it. So yes, there are practical reasons why you would go all the way to a /40 or /30, excuse me.
Okay. Steven asked me to explain it again. I don't know, should I or should you, Kelly?
No, give it one more shot, and then I will actually write it out and do another example of it, and then we will do some practice, because I know you guys are just itching to do some practice.
Okay, so if for /27, we would go ahead and activate the next bit, right? So we would turn that next 0 into a 1.
So yeah, let me catch up to you here with notation. So we're going to turn that into a 1 right here, that 3rd bit.
Okay, so that means that we would double the total amount of networks. So for 2 bits, it was 4 total networks. So then you double that, so times 2.
0, 0.
And that would give us 8
0.
total networks. And then Kelly is writing down all the possible ones right now. And then once you have, so now you know that you have 8 possible networks, you take the total amount of possible IP addresses, which is the 250, the 256, but and you divide that by 8. And then basically each section of 8 would be the would tell you where those ranges are. So 0, 0, 0 would be 0 through 30, what do we say, 30, 64, 31? Yeah, then that would be 30, 32 through 63. 63 through 90, sorry, 64 through 97. Yeah, 98.
91.
Wait, really?
Was it 97? Oh, was it
97? Come on,
97?
Cal.
Hey,
Yeah.
man.
Then it would be 98 through 127. Then 128. Now I need help for the math. 128 plus 30
to 1
plus 31. So that would be
159. 159.
159. Am I right? I don't know. I could be wrong. Hold on. It would be plus 32. No, it would be 161. You're right.
161. Yep. Sorry. Sometimes you do need a calculator. I'm not going to lie. 162.
193.
191.
Oh, 193, Kelly.
93? What?
Yeah, it's plus 32 every time.
I think we're getting a little off here. All right.
Then 194. Plus 32 would be what? 120, 126.
That's okay. I'll get my calculator and clean this up a little bit, but basic idea, we're breaking it down into smaller and smaller chunks. So let me hold on. So this real quick, but is it starting to make sense as to what we're doing? Not necessarily why, but what we're doing. Susan.
Susan, you're muted.
You're muted.
I'll never be able to say that again. So as you turn the bits on, your ranges increase by 8ths, then 16ths, then 32nds, and so on. Is that how?
Yeah, it's kind of what we're doing here.
Okay. Okay,
Makes sense a little bit?
You guys, you'll be able to find a rhythm or find a pattern once you do it yourselves. I mean, it's one thing to look at it, but once you get hands on, it may be a little bit easier for you. So just keep after it. Don't give up. It's difficult, but you can understand this.
I'm trying to see how we got to the difference of 31. I know that Hunter had stated about multiplying the networks by 2 and then splitting the ranges in half. Is that what happened? I'm a little confused.
That was just kind of how I was thinking about it. In the /25, we split into
Mhm.
2 network ranges. And then, half of 225, it's not exactly half, but like 127 would be that. And then if you split 127 in half, now you're down to the 0, like the 63. And then the next time, instead of the 4, splitting the network into quarters, 4 like little sub networks, you would have 8. And then that 63 is now the 31. And each time we go down, you're kind of doubling the amount of networks and splitting them in half. That's just how I'm processing it myself.
That's how I grasped it, was each time you double your networks and you have the amount of hosts per network each time. So as one doubles, one gets cut in half. Because it's all a base 2 operation. So here's the correct ranges for a /27. So you have 8 possible networks, and then there's your ranges within those networks. So up here, we have our /26. Here we have here's our /25. Below it is our /26. Off to the side is our /27. So that's our subnets. So we'll call this.
Okay, so if you do
no,
you're not able to do 28. Okay, never mind.
I can do 28. I just can't do it where you would still have all this stuff. I'd have to erase it and do 28.
Okay, so if you do 28, then it will go to 16, right?
16 networks.
Okay.
How many computers per network?
Oh crap. I'm not there yet.
Well, how many do we have in /27? How many computers per network over here?
31.
Well, 32 technically, because remember 0 is the number, right?
Right.
So if we double the amount of networks, what do we do with the number of computers?
64.
Huh?
I said 64.
Well, so we doubled the number of networks. So we went from 8 to 16 networks. What would happen to the number of computers per network?
Won't they won't double?
No, the computer, no, because it would cut in half, right?
Okay.
Twice as many networks means half as many.
Right, it goes down. So one goes up, other goes down. Okay. I'm sorry. Is this how it's working in my head?
No problem.
Okay, so then it will be because we're already at half. No, we're not. Okay, I guess I'm getting confused again. Thank you, Stephen.
All right. No, we're getting it here. We're gonna do a little bit of practice on IP addresses. So 192. All right. So I'm only going to be working with /26, 25, and 27 on addresses. I'm going to give you an IP address with a subnet mask. You tell me A through N which network you're in. What do you mean, Hunter? Can you elaborate on what you're saying?
Oh no, I was trying to think of how many total ranges we could have to the max. So I think you said it was like /30. And if
Yeah,
we did,
/30.
if we had a total of 64, like when would we ever be using that
Well, here's the thing
maximum
is-
amount of ranges?
This doesn't have to be symmetrical. So what I could do is I could create a /30 network just to carve out those two computers and then use the other ranges for other stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I could have a /25 for 0 to 127. And then for my 128 to 255, I could break that up into 2 /27 or 26s. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. It allows me to carve up my network how I need to.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. So if I have a 192.168.15.32/26. Cynthia, can you please tell me A through N, which network would you fall in?
Okay, so if you see that the 32 is a host ID and then the subnet mask is 26, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go over from looking at A all the way through N, it actually falls under the C from 0 through 63.
Because C or /26 gives us the 4 networks, right? Because that's the 2 bits.
Yes, sir.
So that would be in this range, and then it was a 32, so it fell in right here. No, deleted the wrong thing. All right. You would do that to me. All right, DW. 192.168.15.83/27. A through N, which group would you fall under?
Sorry, you did not hear me?
No, you were muted.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I said group I.
Group I, that is correct. Because it was /27, that puts you in this 8 network group, and then you would find your range within it. Jessica. 192.168.15.65/26. Which group would you fall under, A through N?
D, like David.
Are you sure?
Yes, because AB is 25, and I know you said C through F is a 26. At least that's how I'm trying to take the pictures in my mind. And then with the 65, I would find which group it falls under. So D. And I'm glad I got to see the first two, because I got the second row wrong. I was like, wait, how is it not? And I was like, watch him call me. And sure enough, I almost choked out my coffee, Kelly. So just confirm. D like David. Let me say it with more confidence. That is D.
All right, that's what we want to hear. More confidence. I like that. All right, Miaza, can you tell me 192.168.15 87 slash 25 A through N, which network would you be in?
G.
G. We're ending in 87 here.
Oh, it's gonna be.
And then slash
Five.
25 is your Cider subnet.
C. Over there.
You have some- No, don't worry. Don't stress. Don't stress. This is not an easy concept to grasp right out of the gate. So please don't stress about it. So with a slash 25, that's only the first first one. So that gives us two networks, right? So that's going to put us here.
No, it's
in
gonna
this
be
group. A. Very good. So because of that slash 25, that's what we got to pay attention to. So, but very good, very good. Don't be nervous about getting it wrong. Part of how we learn. All right, let's do another one. Yes, Julian, are you volunteering or do you have a question?
Both. But I just have a question. Would we, I mean, obviously we're doing these exercises to understand the concept and know what we're doing, but would we ever get some type of, question like this in like the A+ exam?
On the A+, no. That was what I was saying before we even started this. This is beyond the scope of A+.
Okay.
However, for some reason, Coursera dives into this but doesn't explain it. That was that lab we were talking about. That was the network routing lab. This is what they were doing.
Okay.
But they never explained it in the videos. They never explained what Cider subnetting was, how to do it. So the sole purpose of this is to give you enough information to be able to pass that and give you a leg up into Network Plus.
Okay. Thank you.
So for the most part, I didn't want to just give you the answers to that quiz. So this is kind of bonus material. All right. So since you volunteered, 138. Wow, I'm way off on that one. 138 slash 27. Which group would you fall under? That is a slash, not a 1.
That would be K.
K. All right. So this seems pretty easy, right? You're kind of just figuring out which network you fall in, and boom, you're in it, right? Do we want to see? Let's spam the chat, but a 1 if it's a yes, or a 0 if it's a no. Do we want to see what a slash 28 looks like? I'll work through it real quick. All right, so we got a lot. So I'm going to erase all of this, and we're going to do a slash 28.
Kelly, is it not easier for you to put it like on the Excel app?
I could, yeah. But Excel gets wonky when you start doing like binary numbers and stuff like that, because it keeps trying to change it around, which sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and do this.
Oh, okay.
So, plus I like torturing you guys with my writing. It's one of those guilty pleasures. So we're going to delete all this.
Need to get a digitizer there, Kelly.
No, I have one. It's underneath the stack of books at the moment. I don't want to dig it out.
You gotta dig it out.
I know. I got it. Avery gave me such a hard time during his cohort. He was literally sending me advertisements for digitizers and stuff like that. He's like, dude, it's painful. So. All right, so we're going to do a slash 28. I need my pen, not my eraser. Here we go. /28. Which gives us this one here. So we have 0, 0, 0, 0. All right, let me try an Excel, see if it'll let me do it. This is a lot.
If you guys can just master the binary, literally 0, 1, 0, 1, just really keep, like, it is so complicated, but if you just keep it simple, you'll actually understand it. I know it sounds easier said than done, but that's how I mastered this. It's just keeping it really simple in a very complicated scenario. And when you can break a complicated scenario into binary, you guys are good. Once you can do that, you guys have mastered it.
Ah. All right. Okay. So we have 16. Networks. Here are our network ranges, or our network names. So 0, 0, 0, 0, all the way up to 1, 1, 1, 1. Our ranges for that network, it's going to be 0 to 15, 16 to 31, 32 to 47, 48, 63, 64, 79, 80, 95, 96 to 111, 112, 127, 128 to 143, 144, 159, 160, 175, 176 to 191, 192 to 207, 208 to 223, 224, 239, 240 to 255. So that is our range. For our /28s, that would be our network ranges for every single one of those networks. That is the network ranges. So if I gave you 192.168.15.37/28, which network would you be in, Hunter?
It would be in the 0010.
Very good. Does this make sense? All right, so we're going to take the training wheels off here. Just to be fun. Let's put our, well, no, we'll leave our notes out for now. I'll be kind of nice. I'm going to type an IP address with a subnet mask in the chat. I want you to take a few minutes. I want you to find out I need you to tell me what network it will be in. So if it was like a /28, would it be 0010 or 0000? So I need you to tell me what network it's going to be in and what the range is for the network you are in. So you're going to have to work out the ranges and then figure out which network you fall in, and you're going to tell me which network you're in and what range that falls into. Is everybody ready? Just raise your hand. Don't shout out. Don't put it in chat, but raise your hand when you are done. Go. Yeah, raise your digital hand. When you're ready, when you got it. Give it a couple minutes. I'm gonna pause the recording here.